So hey, Glenn.
Brooks.
Good to see you, Brooks.
Good to see you.
Lee's behind the camera, folks. You get to see him, but he's waving at you. We're on Who's My Neighbor? Brand new series, right?
It's a brand new series, and it harkens back to our youth, watching Mr. Rogers, who was so welcoming to neighbors.
He was. He wanted to be your neighbor.
Yes.
Won't you be mine?
Won't you be my neighbor?
So we're in Luke chapter 10, and it's crazy. It says an expert in the religious laws. It's a guy that was trying to trap Jesus. And he came to him with a question like, hey, so what do I have to do to have like the best life? And Jesus said, well, what do you think?
Yeah, and that'd be a great passage to read is Luke 10:25 to 29. Take a moment and just read through that and study this encounter that Jesus has with a religious leader.
Yeah.
Who, as you said, there's a subtext going on here where really this leader is sort of trying to trap Jesus. But Jesus gives some pretty radical and specific answers to
Well,
these
it's fascinating
questions.
because he asked the guy, and the guy said, well, you have to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus said, you're close. And then I got to tell you this. I remember growing up in school, teachers telling me there's no such thing as a dumb question. And then I became a teacher. Oh, my gosh, there are dumb questions. And that's what this guy does here. So Jesus says, good job. And the guy's like, yeah, well, so who's my neighbor? I'm like, what? What kind of question is that? Who's my neighbor? And so we know who our neighbors are.
Yeah.
We know who our neighbors are. And the point is that we need to reach out to those that are our neighbors, whether they actually live near us or if it's people that we have contact with. And I think one of the hardest is loving the neighbors that are like unlovable.
Yes. And that could be part of what's in his dumb question, who is my neighbor? He wants an excuse, like, well, do I have to love everybody?
Yeah, even that guy?
Yeah. And I like how the outline gets into that. Who are my neighbors? Those near me, those in need, those that are difficult or inconvenient to love, those that need Jesus.
Absolutely. I think the hardest one is those that are difficult to love.
Yeah.
And I think for us as Christians, that's the biggest call, is we've got to love those that are hard to love.
Yes.
Too often we don't come across as loving people.
Yes.
And we need to be demonstrating the love of Jesus to everybody, even if we disagree with them.
That's a great point. And the easy way is for us to just hang around with everybody that agrees with us and,
easy.
Just have a nice, comfortable, warm little Christian world. But the fact is, we need to be willing to love those who disagree with us, those who don't believe what we believe.
Yep.
And we were talking earlier how beyond this passage, Jesus even illustrates that with the parable of the Good Samaritan, where we actually see Jesus talking about that sort of thing. But yes, how do we love those who don't believe what we believe, who might even be hostile towards us?
Well, and I think that's our call to action for those of you that are watching this video is think of somebody that is a neighbor of yours that you can demonstrate love to. Maybe you can tell them about Jesus. Maybe you can help meet a physical need. Maybe you can be a shoulder for them to cry on. There's so many needs that are out there, and I think it would be great if everybody that's watching this picked a person and said, this week or this month, I'm going to focus on that person. I'm going to be a good neighbor to that person.
I love that. I love being specific and identifying somebody and how you can help. And if that intimidates you, maybe Acts 1:8 is encouraging because it talks about the power of the Holy Spirit.
Absolutely.
But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you will be my witnesses, telling people about me everywhere in Jerusalem, throughout Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. That can feel intimidating, but we have a reminder right here that the Holy Spirit will help us to be able to reach out, reach our neighbors.
100%. And we are called to tell people about Jesus. But sometimes if that's hard for you, Glenn and I were talking earlier, we make it easy for you. And Glenn, what were you saying? An easy thing to invite them to?
Well, one way to love your neighbor is to invite them to church.
Yeah.
And we try to make all of our services, whether it's in Sonoya, whether it's on our main campus here in Stockbridge, we always try to be welcoming to newcomers, to people who may not believe what we believe.
Sure.
But we also have events that are, designed to help folks just feel comfortable, and it's not a churchy atmosphere. And Throwback is coming up at the end of the month.
It is, isn't it?
Yes, both Lee and Brooks are a huge part of that.
Whoop, whoop.
So oldies music, and you want to love your neighbor, invite him to come have some fun at church. And it's an easy first step into a church for folks who may be uncomfortable.
And I love that we do things like that, because there are some people that don't want to go to church, but they'll come to a concert.
Yes.
That isn't churchy at all.
Yes.
And then they get to meet people at the church, and they get to be on the campus, and maybe possibly decide to come back.
That's right.
again later.
And we get to melt their faces.
That's going to be so
with
great.
rock.
In
So-
falsetto.
Uh-oh.
The Lion sleeps tonight. Hey, thanks for letting us talk to you. Have a beautiful day.